Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. And today we're dialing it back down to the lower tiers. Today's video is all about the newbies. The guys featured in today's episode of World of Tanks are playing in low tier tanks, but they're not seal clubbers. They have around about 400 games played each. The tanks that you're seeing them play are mostly the highest tier tanks that they have. We're starting off with Galactic Arachnid in the BT-7 Soviet Tier 3 light tank, on with a 45mm gun. Very, very fast tank. Absolutely terrible armour. The gun's not bad though. The alpha damage is pretty bad, but it's got a good rate of fire to make up for it, and it's got decent penetration. Tanks like the BT-7, the T-26, formed the overwhelming bulk of the Red Army's tank force in 1941, when Germany commenced Operation Barbarossa on the 22nd of June 1941 and invaded the Soviet Union, and they got slaughtered in their thousands by the Panzers. It's not that the BT-7 was a bad tank. By the standards of 1941 light tank design, it was actually pretty good. The problem that the Red Army had was that in the middle of 1941, the Soviet tank armies along the western border of the USSR never had enough fuel to conduct adequate driver training. They didn't have enough ammunition to conduct adequate gunner training, and so they certainly didn't have enough fuel or ammunition to be able to fight off panzer divisions. And so in the first couple of months of Operation Barbarossa, the USSR got a damn good spanking. They later reorganised their tank forces into brigades and attached these brigades directly to infantry divisions, which meant that they weren't able to operate independently. And despite still having a vast numerical superiority over the invading Germans, because the tanks were organised into brigades rather than divisions, they were never able to mass the armour where it was needed the most, and so they continued to lose big. Of course, you don't have that problem here in World of Tanks. Now, what you need to remember when you're watching this is that Galactic Arachnid, at the time I was recording the video, only has 419 games played in World of Tanks. He's a newbie, which is going to become apparent as you see him play. For example, when he's panning the camera around and fully zoomed in, he doesn't take the time to zoom it back out again, so it takes him far longer than it should to actually get the view around to where he wants to be firing the gun next. But these are newbie mistakes. He's definitely not a noob. Big difference. He's making very, very effective use of concealment here. He's been doing a lot of damage to the enemy team without taking any return fire. Doesn't have any kills yet, however. Oh, hang on. No. You can get this guy, though. Bingo. There you go. There's his first kill. The first of many. And there's his second. This, by the way, best game Galactic Arachnid has had in any tank of any shape, size, or description. He's immensely proud of what he achieves in this match, and so he damn well should be. Check this out. Here comes kill number 3. Wait for it. Bingo. Now, a lot of new players will find themselves in a position where they're getting a lot of kills and they're doing a lot of damage, and they'll just sit there long after the point where they should have moved on, relocated, because they're not paying attention to the minimap and they're just waiting for enemy tanks to drive in front of them. They are in a nice spot where they're doing damage and they're not taking any in return, and they feel comfortable there and they stay there. Now, that's a mistake, but it's an understandable mistake for a new player to make, and yet Galactic Arachnid isn't making that mistake. He found a nice sniping position, concealed, early on, right on the front line, did as much damage as was possible from that position, and then he moved up looking for more kills. And this is smart too. When he approached that corner, as well as the medium 3, there was also a Panzer 38T around there. Now, the Panzer 38T has buggered off, and we're going to see him in a moment, but while the BT-7 does not have a lot of armour, the corner of that building does, and so rather than face 2 tanks at once, he only exposes enough of the tank to be able to shoot at one of them at a time, and you'd be appalled at how many players you see in much, much higher tier tanks that don't have the sense to do even something as simple as that. And where do you think you're going, sunshine? Hold still so I can kill you. Now, this is where Galactic Arachnid really betrays the fact that he is a newbie. You see the enemy Vesper over there on the far side of the cap circle to the right? He starts shooting at the T2 light. The T2 light is AFK. The Vesper is not. Okay, he wasn't to know that the T2 light was AFK when he started shooting at him, but by the time he put the second round into him, it should have been apparent, and he should have kept moving and finished the Vesper off first. But he's a newbie. He only has 419 games played. This is the kind of mistake you expect to see people make at this kind of level. The fact that this is the only real mistake he's made in this game is nothing short of astounding. And just in case you haven't been keeping track, that's 7 kills, by the way. That's pretty impressive for somebody with this few games of World of Tanks under their belt. He's going for the D2, however, the last surviving tank on the enemy team, and that is a very well-armoured tank. And while the 45mm gun on the BT-7 can beat the armour of the D2, it's going to have a hard time doing it if the D2's angled. And the D2 is angled. Probably not, because the D2 knows that he's about to have to deal with the BT-7 charging him at full speed, but he just happened to be facing in that kind of direction. So if you're a Soviet tanker faced with a tank that you can't easily penetrate, and the penalty for abandoning your tank is being sent to a penal division, ramming speed! Stalin approves. I'm not making that last part up, by the way. During the Second World War, certainly during the early stages, so many Soviet tank crews were abandoning combat-capable tanks simply due to lack of parts. If a tank got its tracks blown off, for example, say the drive sprocket was damaged, the tank divisions just did not have the spares to repair the tanks, so they had to abandon them. And so many combat-capable tanks were being abandoned that Stalin issued the order that any Soviet tank crew that abandoned their tank, if the tank hadn't been burnt out, they would be sent to a penal battalion. And so this is why you have so many stories of Soviet tankers in crippled tanks ramming panzers, because the alternative was life in a penal battalion. Harsh but true. And, well, also, of course, because they were brave men and they loved their motherland. But I'm pretty sure Galactic Arachnid is not going to have to go to the Gulag for that effort. In fact, I'm equally sure he's probably going to be picking up a posthumous Hero of the Soviet Union award. So, well done, Galactic Arachnid. Next up, I have a bit of a confession to make. I may have taken a few teeny little liberties with the truth at the beginning of this video. Not everybody featured in today's video is a newbie. Our next player is a little bit of a dirty, filthy seal clubber with 9,000 battles to his name, and worse than that, there's no real easy way for me to say this. He's seal clubbing an artillery. This is Dirt 3K, and he is driving the not because I can't pronounce the name of it, but because it's just far more amusing this way. To be fair to Dirt 3K, only 4% of the games he's played in World of Tanks are in artillery. You guys can go ahead and give him shit for it in the comments if you wish, but I certainly can't, because 4% is actually 1% less than me. So, yeah. Anyway, moving along swiftly. We're going to fast forward through the opening stages of this battle, but we will be focusing on some of the big hits, because, hey, why not? And also because watching an artillery replay is like watching paint dry, until everything goes horribly, horribly wrong. Don't worry, things are going to go horribly, horribly wrong in this game, and that's when things start to get very, very amusing. As you can see, he's using the, I think it's called the Battle Assistant mod, which gives you this sort of almost isometric artillery view rather than the standard top-down view that is enabled by default. It's very, very similar to the default artillery view that you get in a game like Armored Warfare. And, yeah, he seems to be using it to very, very good effect. The reason this particular mod is so popular amongst artillery players is that because of this perspective that you get, it gives you a much, much better chance of estimating what kind of obstacles are likely to interfere with your shot. And there's a perfect example of that coming right up, right after this next shot against this poor Panzer IV. Just, ow, oh, that's going to... Yeah, there's somebody who's on the forums right now complaining about artillery. And you can kind of understand why. I mean, if you're fighting against tanks, you at least have the option of shooting back. But artillery is perfectly safe, at least until the rest of the team have failed and they're about to get overrun. At which point a lot of them suicide. And, you know, artillery players, you only have yourself to blame, you know, if you just take your spanking like men. Well, no, who are we kidding? You know, when you can pull shots like that off, it doesn't matter what you do at the end of a match when you're about to lose, people are going to hate you anyway. That's just the way it is. You know, I really don't think that people would hate artillery in World of Tanks quite so much if there was an effective counter to artillery, because right now there isn't. It used to be the case that the counter to artillery were light tanks and enemy artillery, because you could see the artillery traces, and if you didn't relocate between shots, enemy artillery would nail you. And if the enemy artillery didn't nail you, the light tanks would. But the introduction of physics has progressively nerfed the light tanks. They don't stick to the ground the way they used to. Now they lose speed when they hit obstacles, they go airborne, they can flip over. It's much more dangerous for light tanks. And there's no artillery tracer, so there's no artillery counter battery fire. And And this is why people really, really don't like artillery players, because they feel that they're playing with an unfair advantage against proper tanks. And that's what gives me great hope for the new sandbox server that they're introducing into World of Tanks. It's completely different from the test server. The test servers are there for testing out the features of the next patch that's coming into World of Tanks, but I'm pretty sure that the sandbox server is there for testing radical and major overhauls to the basic game mechanics of World of Tanks, and surely one of the first candidates of that has to be artillery. Hopefully I'll have an answer to that and other questions very, very soon, because on Monday I'm taking part in a video conference with the World of Tank development team in Minsk. And the subject of the conference is going to be the sandbox server and what they're calling Balance 2.0 for World of Tanks, and it's really, really hard to see how you can have a conference with that kind of title and not be talking about artillery at some point. So more news on that as it becomes available. For now, it's back to Dirt 3K in what he lovingly refers to as his little bundle of hate, and when you see them pulling off shots like this, watch this BDR. You thought you were safe, didn't you? Look at that. Oh, no way. You have got to be kidding me. Anyway, Dirt's team have thrown away the lead that they had at the beginning of the match. Not that anybody's surprised, this is World of Tanks after all. And they're getting a good, damn hard spanking, particularly from that little bugger in the T-67. And the KV-1 on the team is about to experience something almost as annoying as getting shot at by artillery, getting shot at by invisible enemies, which when you come to think about it is exactly the same as getting shot at by artillery. Now, okay, when you're in something as blind as a KV-1, it's probably not the greatest idea in the world to be driving across the middle of an open field when there's a T-67 on the enemy team, but, well, he did, and now he's dead. So, last real tank on the team's dead, now it's just the two artillery. Dirt in the and a Sexton 2. And the Sexton 2, if you have a look at the map, he's gone on a bit of a hill climbing expedition. Unfortunately, he's just been spotted by the T-67, and he's about to meet a sticky end. Although it is the enemy artillery who's going to kill him, and with his demise, that just leaves Dirt. So, as the late great Sergeant Major Basil Plumley, veteran of all 4 combat parachute drops in World War II, is quoted as saying at the Battle of Nha Trang in Vietnam, just as the regimental first aid post was about to be overrun by the NVA, "Gentlemen, stand by to defend yourselves." And there's the T-67, and yes, he has seen you, and if he can see you, that means the artillery can see you as well. So steel helmets on, boys, stand by to receive incoming. The first shot bounces off his tracks, the second shot misses, but Dirt misses as well. There goes the artillery, T-67 misses again, and then for some bizarre reason, just as the T-67 hits him, he decides it's a good idea, in front of the shotgun artillery, to stop and start reversing very slowly. I'm sure it looked like a good plan on paper, but, well, not so much in practice. But keep moving, because he's still giving your position away to the enemy artillery, who've managed to miss you with every shot they fired, except this one. And yes, he gets away with it. Technically, that was a miss. That was splash damage. The shot actually impacted right in front of him. That birch gun, however, he's not going to give up. I'm pretty sure that's the birch gun firing, and you'll see why I think it's the birch gun firing later. But you're going to hear in the background just artillery shot after artillery shot after artillery shot into that map grid. I think the birch gun is working on the theory that if he just puts enough high explosive into that one map grid, he's bound to hit him sooner or later, whether he's spotted or not. And then suddenly somebody starts capping. Now that's the BDR. How do you know it's the BDR? The BDR could be closing in on your position right now. Well, maybe, but you see, the thing is, the BDR only has 63 health left after the spanking that Dirt gave him earlier. So that's almost certainly going to be the BDR in the cap circle. And so Dirt starts setting up and taking shot at all the likely please don't hit me artillery spots in the cap circle, like the buildings and the platform and supply crates in the middle of the cap circle that people still, even now, insist on not crushing as they drive out of the spawn at the beginning of the match, and instead just give them to the enemy team as something to hide behind in situations exactly like this. Still, there's not much cover left in that cap circle for the BDR to be hiding behind. He's definitely not behind the building, he's not behind the crates in the middle of the cap circle, which only leaves, well, actually we'll come back to that in a moment, because there's the M41, and that's the birch gun, despite the fact that he's spotted. Birch gun still firing at the wrong location. Shotgun's the M41. What's the birch gun up to? Ironically, the birch gun, who's been peppering that map grid ever since the T-67 saw him, picks this moment to be out of position, so he can't fire. And there's only one other piece of concealment in that cap circle for the BDR to be hiding behind. And he nails him. And oh, and now the birch gun started firing blind again. Well, hooray. You know, it's almost as if, and oh, there goes the birch gun again. Don't worry, you just keep putting enough shells into that map grid and I'm sure you'll hit something, even if it's only a tree. But it's almost as if, when the enemy team were 4 against 1, it's like they all get together in a little huddle. And we shouldn't be surprised because you see this happen game after game after game. And they say, alright team, 4 against 1, tactics, how are we going to handle this? And then somebody puts their hand up and says, ooh, I know. We'll all go after him one at a time. And then somebody else says, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. We're 4 against 1. Why do you want to turn it into 1 against 1 4 times? Let's do that. Oh, there he is. He's finally put his man pants on. Unfortunately, he's fluffed his shot, and Dirt is going to take his time. Yeah. There was never really any doubt, was there? Birch gun, firing on the move. Yeah, that'll work. Oh, damn it. I thought I was in an M48. Oh well. If it wasn't for enemies like this, you wouldn't have results like this as often as you do, and that's a fact. Anyway, that's quite enough dirty, filthy seal clubbing for one video. We're back to the new players. This is Blackheart15. He plays on the North American server, and he's just unlocked the Hetzer. Does everybody remember their first Hetzer? I know I do. Do you? Anyway, you can tell he's not a seal clubber because he's not using the Derp 105 Nor howitzer. I'm not entirely sure which of the two 75mm guns he's using. I have to admit, I can't tell the difference between them just from looking. But it's either the Stuck 40 or the Pak 39. One of the two 75mm guns, which means he's using a man's weapon. A proper tank destroyer weapon, not that dirty, filthy seal clubbing howitzer. Of course, I do realise that now I've said that I can't tell the difference from looking at it between the Stuck 40 75mm or the Pak 39 75mm, that 75% of the comments in this video are going to be Jingles, you noob, one has a muzzle brake, the other one doesn't. Or something. Yeah, that's probably what the difference is, but I really can't remember. Anyway, on with the game. Blackheart is definitely a newbie in World of Tanks. He's not a noob, although he's about to have a bit of a noob moment, but he is definitely a newbie. He has just over 1,400 games played, and he's only just unlocked the Hetzer. Now, 1,400 is not actually a lot in World of Tanks. Generally speaking, it usually takes people around about anything between 4,000 and 5,000 games played in World of Tanks before they actually start getting reasonably good at this game. Some people pick it up very, very early. Some people take a little bit longer than 4,000 to 5,000 games to start nailing down the game mechanics. Some people never get good at World of Tanks. In fact, okay, lots of people never get good at World of Tanks. Even when they're driving tier 10s, they're just as crap as they were when they were in tier 1s. I mean, well, have a look at the map. You still see this in tier 10 matches. Have a look at that cluster. There must be 2/3 of both teams, all in the valley. What are they doing in there? Don't they know this is encounter? Well, somebody has to go there, or at least exploit it if the enemy team don't put anybody there. But what they're doing is they're all just taking turns to die on that central ridge right in the middle. Anyway, we'll leave them to it. Blackheart's got some tanks to shoot. Cruiser 4 and an Electo. The Electo's moving, Cruiser 4 isn't. Shoot the Cruiser 4. Bang. There's one. 103 health remaining, 110 average damage. Does 100, leaves him on 3 health. Fires again, but, well, somebody else beats him to it. Personally, if I was him, I'd be writing a sternly worded letter to the Reichsminister for Munitions demanding a refund for the price of that 75mm shell. You were robbed. Robbed, Blackheart. Whoa, Blackheart, careful. Almost had a bit of a noob moment there. There we go. Yeah, that's right. Proper angling gets you back out. Tatra engine on the Hetzer is, well, it'll do. It's adequate. But now we've got an M3 Lee to shoot at. And he does clutch a lot of these shots. But then again, he also aims a lot of these shots perfectly. And, well, it's only a tier 4 tank destroyer. The accuracy isn't fantastic, but, whoa, that was a good hit. M3 Lee is not in a good spot there. See, this is the limitation of the machine. It's only good for shooting around left-hand corners because the gun's on the right-hand side of the tank, and that's a right-hand corner. He's tracked him. Come on. Oh wait, no, the Lee's had enough. He's backed off, but there's a much more juicy target here. That shot went high. The next shot, wait for it. That's more like it. And come on, finish him. Lovely. Now, priority target, Matilda. There aren't many tanks on this battlefield that can beat the 76mm of armour of the Matilda, but the Hetzer's got one of them, so he is a priority target. 2 shots into him. Unfortunately, it was not enough. Now he's running out of targets. Oh, wait, no, the accuracy failed him again. Okay, so that is the objective, by the way, because this is encounter. Are the enemy team going to start capping, or are they all going to start shouting no cap, kill all? The scores just went from 7 to 10 to 8 to 10 to 9 to 10 and now 9 to 11. And that's pretty much as good as these scores are going to get. Now, have a look in the valley over there on the western end of the map, by the way. That massive cluster of tanks that all went in there to die one after the other, there's only one survivor, an enemy T-40. This M3 Lee is about to regret his hasty decision to kill all rather than capping. But the coffin for 7 brothers, as the Russians referred to it, is going to stay in the fight for a few more seconds at least. Meanwhile, see this Matilda? That is as far as that Matilda has made it from the cap circle this entire game. He's basically spent the entire match up until now in a Matilda, hiding behind the artillery. He has no shots fired and no damage done. In a bloody Matilda, in a tier 4 game. Oh, hang on, we'll just put the coffin for 7 brothers out of his misery. There we go. So, where were we? Oh yes, the Matilda. There you go. Getting hit by that M3 Lee is that guy's some contribution to this battle so far. I really can't stress this enough, because it's outrageous. He's in a Matilda too. It's the most overpowered tier 4 tank in World of Tanks. And he's in a tier 4 battle. He finishes this match with no shots fired. It's just... Look, see if you can tell the difference. In the foreground, Hetzer. Newbie. In the background, Matilda. Noob. See the difference? Yeah? Good. Right. Somebody's capping. And I think I can see. And yeah, sorry. You're not penetrating the frontal armour of a Hetzer. Not in a Cruiser 2, not with that gun anyway. This thing's 60mm thick at the front and sloped back at 60 degrees. Your only chance is to run away. Not to roll out in front of the Hetzer's 75mm gun with 25 health remaining. But newbie, can't blame them for it. He didn't know any better. Right, 1 down, 4 to go. Oh, where's the Matilda? Oh, he got hit by artillery. Of course he did. What do you expect? Remember, no shots fired. Anyway. Looks like it's all down to you, Blackheart. But you're in the machine for it and you haven't taken any damage. Oh, this is sneaky. He's not trying to cap. He's keeping them guessing. Right now the enemy team are all having a little huddle and they're saying, how are we going to deal with this? Oh, I know, says the Electo. Let's all go after him one at a time. Now Blackheart, careful. Because you got spotted. There's no way you didn't get spotted. And the enemy artillery, do you really want to be... Well, then again, nobody seems to be shooting at him, which would indicate that wherever that Su-5 is, he was able to hit the Matilda and ooh. Yeah, they're coming after him one at a time. Poor little Panzer. Why are you shooting at me, Hetzer? You're on my side. Not today, Fritz. Not today. And there's another one. Yes. He's like, team? This all go after him one at a time plan? It's not working. Team? Help! Where's the T-40? See, this is what I don't understand. There's no reason why they should all be coming after him one at a time, and yet... Well, they are. Oh, newbies. They at least have the excuse. They're tier 4. Oh, the artillery woke up. Missed, though. But yeah, these guys are newbies, so they have the excuse of inexperience. But when you see people doing this, and you see people doing this in tier 10 matches, 5 on 1. Oh, I know, let's all go after him one at a time. It's not quite as depressing when you see it in a tier 4 match, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, 3 down, 2 to go. And the 2 that are left have got 7 kills between them, which is what makes it all the more baffling that T-40 let the Electo And the Panzer 38 just go after him one at a time, didn't try to back them up. I mean, the T-40 is not a particularly slow machine. He could easily have made it here at the same time as the Panzer 38, and yet, well, where the hell is he? It just don't make no sense. Meanwhile, check this out. He's a sneaky bugger, isn't he? Look at that. That's smart. Look at his positioning. He's got his blind side covered to the left. Anybody that approaches from the left, proximity detection is going to alert him before they can fire at him. He's got his avenues of fire covered, and he's not sitting in the cap circle, so he's keeping them guessing. They do not know. They don't even know if he's still in the town. He's hetzing. That's what he's doing. He's in a hetzer. It hetzers. This is what hetzing is. Disappointingly, there seemed to be a distinct lack of hetzes for the hetzer to hetz in this particular location, so he decides to, well, mix things up a bit. Go and hetz somewhere else, just for the sheer joy of hetzing. I don't know how long I can keep this joke going, but I'm going to have a damn good go. Anyway, why did he leave that spot, Jingles? Well, two reasons. One, battle time is running down, and he's going to have to provoke a reaction, so he moves down here, which is inside the cap circle, and he's handing the initiative now to the enemy team. Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Also, if the T-40 and the Su-5 are working together and he's in that spot up there, the T-40 spots him, the Su-5 could hit him. Su-5 can't hit him here. And there's the T-40, just got proximity detected. Now it's at this point where Blackheart makes a bit of a dodgy judgment call. Because if that Su-5... And you have to count on artillery players not wanting to leave their nice safe little position at the back of their base. And if he was still there, this could have ended very, very differently. But, well, he's not still there. And so, this... Look at him. Son, you just got hetzed. And off he goes. And not a peep from the Su-5. Lucky? Well... You could argue that he is lucky, but you're going to find that in World of Tanks and most online games and most things in life in general, the people who are good make their own luck. Now, where's he going to go? What's that Su-5 up to? The Su-5 didn't fire at him, which, well, he hasn't shown a lack of willingness to fire at other tanks so far in this game. He's got 4 kills, so the fact that the Su-5 didn't fire would indicate that the Su-5 was not in a position to fire, so not back over there in the direction of his own base. Now watch this, you can see his thought processes. Anything that comes around the corner immediately on his left will be proximity detected. Anything in front of him, he's got covered. And he has cover immediately to his rear. That just leaves his right hand side. You can see him checking out his right hand side and thinking, if anything pops around there, I'm vulnerable. So he moves. And it turns out to be exactly the right decision. As he goes back to the original spot where he detected the T-40, the Su-5 pops up and would have had a shot at him there if he hadn't moved. He's good, isn't he? He's not bad. He's not bad at all. Su-5, no, sorry, not today. Prepare your anus, sunshine. You're about to get hetzed. There's the one. Don't run, you just die tired. And there's the 2. How good was that? Blackheart 15, North American server, hetzing like an absolute boss. I see a bright future ahead of you in World of Tanks, sunshine, if you keep that up. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. Hope you've enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.